So there have been a couple questions about this project and working with some of the formulas and things, and just a quick tutorial here. Here's a similar example. Let's say that that there are 200 bacteria to start with, and each creates 10 new bacteria per hour. Um, so what I'm going to do is do hours, similar to the steps that we were looking at, new bacteria, and then total bacteria. And I'm going to look at time hour 0 to start with. And we would have 0 new bacteria then, and we would have 200 total bacteria to start with. Then at time 1 hour, what happens, and this is not obviously a realistic scenario for bacteria, it has some similarities. What happens then is what I want to do is I want my new bacteria to equal 10 times the previous total bacteria. And then the new total bacteria is going to equal the old total plus the new one there. And what I can do is, I want this to equal the previous number of hours plus 1. What I can do now is when I copy this down, we can see this pattern of growth here. And it grows pretty rapidly. I wanted people to put the commas in these things, in the numbers, these bigger numbers at least. So I'm going to do format, and forgive the hound dog whining in the background. I'll hit number, but now it has these decimals with it. I don't really want those, so I'm going to decrease the number of decimal places. It's my friend's hound dog that's noisy. Mine's nice and quiet in the background. So this works, and it gives me the total number of bacteria here after 11 hours. We could say after 12 hours. And of course, this is the idea of why you don't leave food sitting out. Is if there's 200 bacteria to start with, and there's probably a lot more than that, then after 12 hours, you're looking at, what is this? 627 trillion bacteria, sort of a extremely high number there. Again, this is not the perfect model, but it doesn't allow me to change what's happening here with the number of bacteria. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put initial number, and then I'm going to put the number new per hour, and then or number of new from the old. And this will be, again, slightly different from the one you all are working on, but I'm going to put over here hours, new bacteria, and then the total bacteria. My hours, I start at 0, and it's going to be the previous number of hours plus 1, similar to what you'll do with the step. New bacteria here, I'm starting in at 0, and then the total is, well, what I want to do is I want to point back up here to this initial number. And so we said we were going to do 200, and then the number new is 10, from the old. And so what I want to do is I want this one to point up to this 200 here. And then the new bacteria is going to equal this total bacteria here times the 10 new for each of the old ones that we had here. So times 10. And here's where I think a lot of people are coming up with an error, is this G2 here. I want, no matter what this formula is as I copy it down, to point back up at this cell here. So I have to make sure I put dollar signs in there. And I said we could just put $G, $2. And what that does is it locks it in on that cell so it won't change it. The total bacteria is still going to equal the old total plus the new bacteria. And then what happens when I copy this down, we get the same numbers. And I can format this as number here and get rid of the extra decimal places. And we're getting the same numbers that we had over there. But what's happened in this column here is, like, for instance, this cell points at the previous line's total, but then it multiplies it by the number new back up top here. So it still points at G2. no matter what. But everything else, each time I copy it, points at the previous total and then times the number new. Now, your project, you're going to have a slightly different setup because the number new are going to be based on the number of new friends you had in the previous step. So the 10, that times 10 would multiply by the previous number up here above it, but not the previous total because we're not, each new person is not adding new people. Um, well, each new person is adding new people, but the old people are not adding new people. And so then what we get is now I can change this number. I can say, well, what if there were just two back here to start with? And what if we had 3 new per hour? Then we can see these totals update automatically at this point here. So what I'll do is I'll put this out in the assignment so you can see the formulas in this. I'll share it, and then you can make a copy of it if you want to play around with it. But again, the formulas will be different on your end. But having these initial values in and the number new can get you the basic setup and allow you that flexibility of being able to sort of change some numbers and play around with how this would work, right? If we were trying to get to, just a billion, then, we might start with a little bit higher number, 15, for instance, and then go up to, say, 4 new per one, and that puts us at 3 billion. So we're well over what we need in this case here.